What's Dead by Daylight? Dead by Daylight, or DbD, is the premier online asymmetric multiplayer survival horror video game developed and published by Canadian studio Behaviour Interactive. One player is a killer, 4 players try to survive being hooked and sacrificed, a mix of fun and anger ensues. What's Halloween Horror Nights? Halloween Horror Nights, or HHN, is the premier annual Halloween-themed event at Universal Studios theme parks in Orlando, Hollywood, Japan, and Singapore, and possibly in the UK very soon. So take the most popular asymmetric horror game, put it in the most popular annual horror event, and apparently you get a great idea that only one other person on the entirety of YouTube has had a passing notion of. But that's okay, I've got you covered. Hey everyone, this is Fungi Gamer. Today, I'm going to run through my ideas for a DbD house at HHN and HHN content for DbD. And full disclaimer to Universal and Behaviour, if you're watching this, please feel free to use these ideas. After all, these are your properties, and I simply want to get these ideas out there for fans to start talking about them and asking for them. But if you want, you could also send a few eerie shards for the concepts. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. For anyone else watching this, I hope that I can sell you on either looking into DbD or HHN if you haven't already. And if so, I please ask if you could like the video, comment your suggestions for collaboration, and send this out to other DbD players and HHN enthusiasts to hopefully get some official eyes on the concepts and make this a reality. One other quick note late in the development of this video. In my previous Year 10 anniversary prediction video, I mentioned how we may potentially be already getting Dead by Daylight as part of a Fortnitemares scare zone this upcoming year for HHN 2026. There's rumors of a Dead by Daylight collaboration with the game, and Fortnitemares is allegedly rumored for the event. So if they work out how to bring licensed skins in Fortnite to HHN as part of that collaboration, I feel like Behaviour might be the first in line to accept that invitation. In fact, there are some trusses added to the speculated zone location as of late, with this one in particular in a very peculiar, unique shape that might just be part of a Fortnite-stylized Dead by Daylight hook for a Dead by Daylight showcase portion of the zone. And hey, if you think this is something else, please let me know in the comments below. But if it is part of a Dead by Daylight showcase, this paves the way for a full-blown house collaboration once Blumhouse finishes the upcoming Dead by Daylight film around late 2027. To come up with the concept of the DbD house at HHN, I took a few factors into consideration. Using HHN Year 34 as a guideline and watching some videos, I determined that the average number of rooms or scenes of a house range from about 8 to 13, and the number of scare actors or scare effects per scene hover around 1 to 3. So let's maximize the number of rooms to 13, and then go with the average of about 2 actors per room to get 26 scares for the whole house. I decided the best case scenario for a DbD house is to have each scene showcase a different realm in the game, what we call map themes, and each scare actor or prop would showcase one of the 24 original made killers of the game at the time of writing, with 2 killers showcased per realm. Sorry for fans of the Judgment, I've been working far too long on this and I hope to get this video out before they are, so consider a stained glass cameo of the killer somewhere instead. And yes, Dead by Daylight also has licensed killers, but I doubt HHN would be willing to license them as an addition to the house, unless they really want to add their own licenses like Chucky into the house. After mulling over for a few hours on what realms should be included and what killers would fit best where, here's what I came up with. I sadly dropped Leary's Memorial Institute, Macmillan Estate, and Decimated Borgo, since the former realms overlapped with other map themes, and the latter seemed like it didn't differentiate itself to stand out visually for one single killer. So let me give you a rundown of how I feel like this house would work. I'm going to give you a descriptive, atmospheric rundown of each realm, what killers are in them, what powers or weapons they have, and how I feel that would work best in a scare house. I also feel the need to advise that I have noted specific portions of each realm for set piecing and have them flowing in what I feel would be the most seamless manner, mostly in accordance with similar times of day. However, I anticipate that if I actually map these out, they likely would not fit the usual warehouse or tent layout and might even overlap on itself, so please bear some suspension of disbelief with me. After all, the locations in-game are entity-made, imperfect, fleshy recreations of the memories of these locations, so let's use this as an excuse to take liberties with the layouts. I'll also be trying to condense the killer information to strictly their in-game weapons and powers, along with the occasional memento mori signature kills of a few killers. If you're new to Dead by Daylight and want to learn more about each killer, then I highly encourage you to delve deeper into their expansive lore from DbD YouTubers like Ozzymovs or Mintskull. I don't have the time to go too deep, and they'll be far more informative on that front than I can be. So, without further ado, let's begin. You enter the warehouse into a pitch-black fog, only illuminated by a dimly lit campfire with offerings scattered around the flickering flames. This edge of a grand forest is the meeting place for survivors, a place beyond all realities and where all trials begin and end. From this moment onward, you are a survivor of the entity's trials, the individual games of Dead by Daylight, and are a prime target for the various killers who roam the entity's realm. As a shrill scream echoes in the distance, you begin your journey into the Red Forest, a realm shrouded in dark shadow of endless trees and small structures that were the sites of unspeakable terror. Delving deep into the forest, you start to hear a low lullaby, the song of the huntress, who not only hides their location through their singing, but also has a handful of hatchets for throwing at victims. Suddenly, the lullaby stops, and you barely dodge a thrown hatchet, showcased by a blast of air out of a tree prop, and barely miss the huntress swinging her broad axe around another trunk. You then come past the ruins of a stone temple of purgation, the haven of the plague, a killer who worships her god with a profane censer and carries a putrid sickness spread through vomiting. A plague dummy will wait around the corner of a temple pillar and will shoot a sprinkle of water at the survivors, lit green from the room, representing her infectious sickness. Luckily for you, the infection did not spread, and you advance onward. Through the fog, the forest slowly fades into a lush Japanese garden. You are now on the Yamaoka estate, garden grounds bathed in the blood of centuries of deep-rooted rage. Before you lies a traditional Japanese home with an old-tiled rooftop that is coming apart by the shingle and a weathered tatami flooring stained with ancient blood splatter. You enter the aged building and head toward a katana display, but catch your eye on an ethereal floating woman down the hall, sliced into pieces and belting out a ghastly wail as she spasms. This is the spirit, who begins to twitch and crack more violently as you approach, portrayed by an animatronic through a Pepper's Ghost effect. You realize too late that she is performing her phase ability, the animatronic fading into the darkness as she materializes behind a massive rubble to your side and slashes at you with the remnants of the very same katana that ended her life prematurely. You duck into another room where you encounter the Oni, a killer doomed by the entity to resemble a Japanese demon as furious as the rage he bestowed in life. The Oni has freshly slain another survivor and uses their power to draw blood from the corpse and transform to an even more gruesome figure, portrayed by cleverly designed lighting effects hidden in the scare actor's mask. Powered up, the Oni retrieves their Kanobo, a spiked iron club, and thrashes it around the room. They strike the fallen survivor that splurts water at guests, the nearby generator that lets out sparks, and even takes a swing in your direction. Shortly after leaving the house, the fog leads you to a cramped wooden labyrinth of mud, bones, and netting. You find yourself in the grim pantry, the remnants of an old cannibal camp deep in the dried-out bayou of the Backwater swamp. Once under the swamp water, this basement prison housed the bloated bodies of soon-to-be victims, but with all the skeletons caged here, the only remaining victims for the local killers are you. Stepping past the clutter and cages, you fail to notice a symbol carved into the muddy floor. These are the traps of the Hag, a witch of flesh and mud, and it vibrates beneath your foot as you trigger it. She uses the trap to teleport around the corner and raises her arms to slash at you with her branched claws. If you do not tread carefully and step on another trap further ahead, she may teleport further via another scare actor. Through the netting up ahead, you see Charlotte, one of two entities known as the Twins, creeping closer with her battered sickle in tow. Suddenly, she points with her weapon, and her younger gremlin-like brother Victor pops out from a broken section of the wood paneling and snarls, portrayed as a puppet. With his lunge failed, you make your escape out of the wooden dungeon. You exit through the fog into a rotten field of cornstalk, the faded memory of the Coldwind farm. The horrors of this old farmland become readily apparent as you approach the cow tree, with steer corpses hanging and festering in the hot sun. The hillbilly made this ghastly creation long ago, bludgeoning victims with his hammer and sawing them apart with his chainsaw. At the mere thought of him, the corn stalks rustle, and soon enough the hillbilly appears and starts revving up his chainsaw. You run ahead to the rancid abattoir, the farm slaughterhouse that has seen much bloodshed of animals and otherwise. Beyond the gates and hanging carcasses, you see a fellow killer, the clown, finishing up a previous victim. He stomps the back of the victim's head with his clown shoes and uses his signature butterfly knife to slice off a succulent finger to suck on. He hears you recoil in disgust and tosses one of his bottled tonics in your direction to slow you down, represented by a spray of purple smoke. You soon arrive at the Dead Dog Saloon at the grave of Glenvale, a long-forgotten western ghost town inhabited by nothing but the roaming tumbleweeds. Inside of the dusty saloon, you see the corpses of several cowboys scattered about, sagging over bar stools and poker tables with aces and eights still in their decaying fingers. You pass a doorway where you see the Blight performing his signature mori on a victim, injecting a vial of his blighted serum into the survivor and causing fungal growths to form on their body. The Blight then turns his attention toward you, lets out a shriek, and rushes at the door with his gnarled cane hung high, nearly striking you. Up ahead on the wall you see the shadow of the Deathslinger, an Old West bounty hunter with a weaponized contraption akin to a harpoon gun, as he reels in a survivor up the saloon staircase. You then see the shadowed Mori of the Deathslinger, as he reloads his gun and fires the harpoon through the survivor's head. As you round the corner, you see the Deathslinger in full at the top of the stairs as he reloads again and nearly misses you with the harpoon. simulated with a blast of air from a mechanism hidden in the stair banister. You swerve behind the bar and out of the saloon doors into the dusty desert. The desert soon fades into the dust-choked expanse of the Foresaken Boneyard, a surreal realm brought about by the artistic interpretation of a cold and forgotten Chilean graveyard, battered by the passage of time. A swarm of crows circles high above the towering crypt ahead, hungering for their next feast of flesh. As you enter the monolith, a survivor covered in crows runs out behind a shelf of corpses, desperately trying to shoo them away. These were sent by an inky, towering killer called the Artist, who pulls the survivor back behind the shelf. Around the corner, you see an ethereal giant crow head floating in front of you before the Artist sends it barreling toward you, portrayed by a Pepper's Ghost effect accompanied by an air blast. Luckily, the crow visage misses you and you are not afflicted by the crow swarm. You turn the corner behind another shelf of corpses where a green light ahead of you forms into one of the 3 guards that accompany the Knight. This is portrayed by a colorful green orb on a screen that morphs into the guard, each accompanied by their own squeal. This guard smashes a generator ahead of you with a bang and a flash of light, distracting you from the Knight himself, bringing down his sword on you as you dash out of the crypt tower. The sand beneath your feet has quickly been replaced by snow in the haze of the fog. You approach the abandoned ski lodge of Mount Ormond, long battered by harsh snowstorms and rough winds, the floorboards creaking below you as you enter an old locker room. Unfortunately, it does not appear isolated for long, as the 4 members known as the Legion use their speed and knowledge of anatomical weak points to make precise knife slashes at you, from several hidden boo holes and from behind a rotting wooden counter. You barely escape the encounter and head into the lounge, caught by surprise by yet another killer shouting down from the stairwell. This is the Houndmaster, a scarred pirate with a mastery of beasts, and she commands her Cane Corso companion Snug to lunge over a fallen pallet to bite you. This is portrayed via a puppet or animatronic on a belt. You dodge the snarling beast and head out through a hole in the lodge's rotted wall. You run so fast from the old lodge that you don't notice the snow-covered pines give way to lavender-purple jungle foliage. You have transcended time and space and ended up in the realm of Dvarka Deepwoods, a wild and untouched alien planet many light years beyond anything you've encountered thus far. You become so fixated on the enigmatic blue flowers around you that you fail to notice the giant pulsating orbs above you, watching your every move. These are the biopods of the Singularity, a cybernetic monstrosity that monitors and slipstreams to its prey before slashing with its modular claw. The claw comes swiping down on you from behind a growth of purple vines on the nearby wall. This effect will be similar to the nylon wooden trellis effect from Wicked Growth, making it appear as if the Singularity is attempting to slice through an otherworldly floral mesh to get at you. Avoiding the claw, you turn the corner to see a multitude of skulls floating in midair, drones of the Skull Merchant. The drones detect you with their scans and send out an alarm to her, but she is preoccupied with gutting another survivor. She takes a moment to push away the fresh kill and swipe at you with one of her clawed gloves, glaring at you from behind her ornate face mask. As the sun begins to set, you head across a barren path toward the smoldering ruins of the Crotus Prenn Asylum. Inside, you move through the wreckage and into a hallway lined with long-abandoned equipment, until you hear a gasped screech. At the end of the hall, you see the lit-up dummy of the nurse. Despite the cloth wrapped around her head, She can easily teleport in short blinks and slash at you with a bone saw. In fact, you see her charge up, then disappear as the light goes out and re-emerges on another dummy to your right, before quickly doing this a second time and allowing a scare actor to your left to pop out next to you and slash at you in the ever-shifting light effect. She misses and gasps for air as you slip into a dilapidated conservatory. Distracted by the setting sun outside the window, you are caught off guard as the floor violently vibrates beneath you. You've just been hit with the shock therapy shockwave ability of the Doctor, who wields electricity through both this powerful spark and through a charged stick, which he'll swing at you with a maniacal giggle as you make your way out of the conservatory and the asylum as a whole. You exit out of the asylum and into the twisted dream world of a neon-lit Korean city alleyway, the realm known as the Sleepless District. A K-pop star turned murderer, known as the Trickster, steps out of a neon-lit bar with a chuckle and hurls several specially made blades at you in succession, which you feel barely miss you through small, rapid, carefully placed air blasts. He grunts in anger and swings his bat at a fellow survivor as you head down a broken-down lower district. The alleyway is pitch black in this part of town, and you feel some sort of wet, slimy rope in the darkness. Suddenly, an old sign shoots sparks, revealing the gruesome visage of the Crotus, a frightening creature from Thailand that is a floating head dragging a long carpet of entrails, the very entrails you've been bumping into. You make your way through the intestines blocking your path into the next realm. You emerge into the theater of the small American town of Greenville, the site of many mysteries and disappearances. You enter the theater lobby and spot the disturbed visage of the unknown, a cryptid bathed in myth and rumor. All that is known of the creature is that it leaves copies of itself in its path, as you see with the mass of clone carcasses before you now. As you creep through the lobby, one of the masses of flesh reveals itself as the true unknown and extends a fleshy tube that fires a purple plasma at you, portrayed as a purple ball of smoke. Disoriented, you rush toward the sound of clanging gears ahead, the theater's arcade. As you swerve around the cabinets and pinball machines, you see the locker ahead of you shake violently, and the lights dim into darkness. The Dredge pops out of the locker, another eldritch creature with sagging flesh and a shadowy body that emits the screams of past victims. Portrayed by a puppet, it swipes a hooked claw at you and retreats back into the locker, allowing you brief access to the exit. You come across the remnants of a grassy junkyard, part of the Autohaven Wreckers realm. You swerve around a mesh of crushed cars to a dark, quiet portion of the map away from the glit gas sign and station facade, hearing only the grumbled sounds of the Wraith, who can turn invisible with his bell. Just then, a loud bang echoes through the area, and the Wraith pops out of a boo-hole as if through thin air and takes a swing at you. Up ahead of you, you hear the exit gate being powered by a fellow survivor, the sirens alerting the killers to your pending escape. You attempt to pass through the inner gates. However, before you can exit, you might step on a bear trap set by the Trapper. This is indicated by a floor trigger that vibrates and loudly snaps, which is followed by the Trapper popping out from behind the pillars of the exit gate, grabbing the survivor who opened the gate, and taking one last swing at you with his machete as you barely remove the trap in time. As you head back into the crowded theme park of Universal Studios, you will remember that not even death is an escape from the entity's realm. In fact, the park may one day enter the fog itself. I hope you enjoyed that. That took a long time to plan out and edit, and anyway, before I leave the topic of Dead by Daylight in HHN, we have to talk about offerings. Food offerings, that is. Each license that joins HHN brings with it all manner of merchandise, usually in the form of shirts, posters, glassware, and more. I'm not going to touch on those, mostly because they can simply move over the merchandise from the Dead by Daylight online store. Instead, I want to focus solely on the traditional food booth that comes with each house, and what that means for Dead by Daylight. For starters, the booths usually theme themselves to something the house associates with, whether it's a scene like the Clown Cafe for Terrifier, or an appropriate theme like the Camp Crystal Lake Snack Shack for Jason Universe. Therefore, the most appropriate basis for a Dead by Daylight food booth would likely be the Moonstone Cafe, a location featured in the lore of Greenville residents like the popular survivors Michaela and Sable, or perhaps a sinew-covered entity replication of the locale. There are usually about 2 to 3 food and drink offerings per food booth. For the sake of coverage, I came up with about 3 items each, all callbacks to offerings in the game or the short-lived mobile version of it. I also factored in my own complaint of HHN featuring too many spicy or hot foods and a lack of non-alcoholic drinks, adding a variety of temperatures, flavors, and spices that seem to be both affordable and easy to produce. I present to you the Moonstone Cafe food booth. For food, we have 3 offerings. Bloody Sausage Streamers, a thick sausage link slathered in honey barbecue sauce and served on a crispy hot dog bun. Survivor Pudding, a bowl of rich milk chocolate pudding complete with a gummy eyeball and crunchy bits of breadsticks. Escape Cake, a round blueberry cupcake with blackberry frosting, topped with a squared shortbread cookie with an escape edible image printed on it. These offerings were pretty easy to imagine because they're common trial offerings. Bloody Sausage I kind of adapted from the Jason Universe sausage, and for the Survivor Pudding I wanted to make it savory and sweet while also being a bit crunchy and sour to imitate the Survivor bits. For the Escape Cake I wanted to represent a bit of the game's signature fog, which I hope to convey with a sweet aroma and taste of berries. And the shortbread cookie was a no-brainer to fit with the escape design as a topper. For drinks, we have 3 offerings as well. Light Serum, pineapple juice, orange schnapps, apricot syrup, sour citrus mix, served in a replica injection vial. Murky Reagent, white rum, blue curacao, pineapple juice, and thick blueberry syrup. Lotus Leaf Tea, a Moonstone Cafe favorite, a paper cup with the cafe logo containing a herbal blend of lotus leaf tea. Light Serum was the obvious choice, and I wanted to elicit a sweet citrusy taste with a sour element to make one pucker up, as if in reaction to injecting the dangerous concoction. Speaking of which, the injection vial serves as both a neat souvenir and a way to further showcase the trails the syrup leaves in the drink. The Murky Reagent is essentially a blue whale drink with a hint of that blueberry fog feeling I was going for with the Escape Cake. Finally, the Lotus Leaf Tea is the outlier not only as the sole non-alcoholic drink, but also in the fact that it is from the short-lived Dead by Daylight MOBA. It's a simple warm herbal tea, which might help settle the stomachs of those daring to scarf down all the booth foods at the event. Be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for Part 2, where I cover HHN in Dead by Daylight. And trust me, you're not going to want to miss this. I have a map idea that might be the greatest map idea you've ever heard. Thank you very much and have a nice night.